I am not a undergrad alum, but I am a graduate alum. Um, yeah, and I also assistant coach basketball team, the men's basketball team there. So that's me.
Chloe?
I am currently a part of the Episcopal Service Corps. I'm living in the Sycamore House on Front Street, which is like an intentional living community of a bunch of recent college grads. We all have different placements in the city. My placement is at St. Stephen's Episcopal School. I am the social and emotional learning teacher from ages preschool all the way up to 7th grade. And that's what I've been doing this past year, is teaching.
So I'm Veronica. I work in Allison Hill with Alyssa. I'm the Neighborhood Revitalization Coordinator at Tri-County Community Action. So we're right in the Hill. I worked as a family educator for a couple years at this agency. So I was a home visitor and worked on some like child development and development-centered parenting classes, and just like really intentionally working with parents to set goals for their children and their families. So I loved that. And that kind of aligns with what I'm studying. I'm also pursuing my master's in marriage and family therapy. So Orlando, I'm going to be a Messiah grad alum too. I went back for more, but my undergrad was in human development and family science. And I feel like that's relevant in noting here because my position now as doing like revitalization work is more systems based. So the broader impact on the community, like murals and cleanups and just sort of like touching base with our youth to figure out, get a pulse on what they see the issues are so that we can give a platform for them to create some creative spaces and creative solutions. But I could go on forever, sorry, but that's what I do.
And I think it's cool that you all are in the Harrisburg area. I also live in the Harrisburg area. I actually live in Allison Hill, so I figured that might be worth mentioning since I think it's pretty local.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to know that all of us have sort of roots in Allison Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Colin. Kind of. And although you guys are all connected to Messiah, that it's good that there's so many different perspectives. So it's going to be really cool building on that as we move forward. So I will start with Orlando. So you work with interns and multicultural groups at Messiah. BCMPEACE gains a number of our volunteers through the same avenue with Messiah, and with interns and just young people getting engaged in the community. What have you found is the best way to support and motivate young people, especially diverse young leaders, to do the work that builds the community?
From my experience, I think one of the most impactful things that we've found is building them up, really, helping them establish a sense of community within, whether that means having events for them or just doing things that allow them to connect, have fun, let their hair down, so to speak, and feel that community and that connectedness there, which then it kind of gives them the strength and the courage to go out and give to others. When what I found is that when it becomes difficult for the students to really feel motivated to give, a lot of times it's because they feel like they haven't had that time to just be amongst themselves, just hang out, have fun. Sometimes they get too caught up with school. Well, it's hard to say caught up with school as they're students, but school gets busy, and but then they also take a lot of things on, and sometimes they just get caught up ripping and running. It can make it difficult. So I think being intentional to make time for them to connect with one another and feel supported by one another has been beneficial.
With that, I'm gonna kind of put two people on the spot to just kind of get it going. Daniel and Eric are both in a community house. So just kind of how what he said resonates with you guys being in like an intentional community.
Yeah, so just being here at Allison Hill and just this new environment really has, I guess, being close by everybody, the pastor, Dr. Hart, and obviously the church, everything is in close proximity for me. And I feel like just me adapting here to this environment has been really some challenging aspects of it, but at the same time, I've seen some growth in myself, and just knowing that even though there are different like places I may not like, I don't associate myself with, or going like places I don't like to be, but at the same time, I noticed that I'm here for a reason. My presence here in the environment that I'm in, it's just to like really grow more, and just to understand that, you know, there will be some challenges, but I gotta accept that, and I just gotta understand that people are here in my corner to help me. I guess, you know, to help my community, pretty much to give back to my community.
And this is probably the most urban place I've ever lived full time, the most inner city. And right now don't have a car. So you don't truly appreciate some of these neighborhoods, for both the good and bad, until you've had to walk through them. You don't see so much of it when you're driving. But this is probably one of the densest urban areas I've ever lived, short of Calcutta, India, which I was in many years ago.
And just to kind of go off of that a little bit too, because, you know, coming from an area in Philadelphia where it's more like family, you know, Black, me coming to Harrisburg and noticing like similar, that the environment sort of similar, and just kind of like I was very much more like acceptable at first, just kind of like adapting to it. But over time, I knowing that, you know, different spaces may create some challenges, but at the same time, just understanding that, you know, I can grow wherever I go. You know.
And I've got a lot of architectural and historical preservation background. Some of these buildings down here are incredible. There is a huge diversity of architecture in some of these old, you know, buildings. Turrets and you name it. It's a shame to see some of them being torn down. The one that's behind our Brethren apartment building with the curved front, the 3-story. I mean, I know it's too far gone to fix, but that must have been a beautiful building in its day.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
How have you guys, what's your experience been like actually living in the Ubuntu house?
There's the two of us, and then there's David, who is not a Brethren volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been kind of interesting. We do community meals once a week, either here or at the pastor's house. I do a lot of the cooking because I've got restaurant kitchen experience. But it's been interesting. We all have our own bedrooms. It's a big house. We can be away from each other if we need to.
It's definitely been an interesting experience. Initially, when I was looking at this position, they were saying I was probably gonna be in an apartment, and you know, then afterwards, I was told that I was gonna be living in a house. So I was definitely, you know, excited about that. And this, like he said, the space is pretty big, and we have neighbors who are our next door neighbor, she cooks mixed chicken for us, and that's a blessing right there. And she's very gracious. She's a gracious woman. Just most of the people who owned the house prior to us coming here, they were very gracious too, and they left everything in handy for us. So it was a smooth transition, just coming in here. And then, like I said, pastor is right across the street. Dr. Hart, he and I, we meet every month, and we just talk about life. He's my mentor, and we just talk. He gives me some guidance and things like that, and it's just good to have people like that in your corner. And Danny, who was supposed to be on this call, but he couldn't make it because he has other obligations, but he's in close proximity also in Orlando. So it's just cool to see all these people that I'm familiar with from mostly Messiah, and it shows me that, like, even though you may not be at Messiah, you still can, get closer to people who went to Messiah, and I'm just excited for that opportunity and just being here in Harrisburg also.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about mentorship. Like, no matter what you're interested in, you have to find people who have been there and done that. I know for me, I didn't know I wanted to study marriage and family therapy until I met a marriage and family therapist and someone who's gone through the motions, all the school and the rough family clients and the difficult couple relationships. I didn't really think it was possible until I saw someone doing it, and they may not have looked like me, but it was someone who's done it before, that I can ask those hard questions and get not only accountability, but that like go-to person for those weird random questions that come through the way when you're pursuing something intentionally.
My background was in psych. I spent a year as a mental health tech, and that convinced me I didn't want to go on and get a master's degree in therapy.
Yeah, it could go either way, yeah.
I work with little kids and teenagers with autism and Asperger's. Little kids with reactive attachment disorder. Yeah, I'll spare you the stories, but I will never work in that field again. I got 2 pairs of glasses broken in the space of about 2 weeks. And never again.
Work.
I thought one of the cool things that I thought was really good that the guys got, because I was the BVSer that came before the guys, and so they got the house and then I got the apartment, but it's fine. I'm not bitter. But they did get mentors, and Josiah, who's like in charge of the community house, well, him and Christine were really good about building that community. So like when we have community dinners, it's not just like sitting around and eating. It's like we have like really good talks, and we really like show that we care for each other. And like the inclusion of the mentors and just like checking on them and knowing that they are like out in the community and doing good work is really, really cool to see. So with that, I will go to Chloe for my next question.
Okay.
So I don't know how long exactly you've been working with Episcopal Service Corps. How long has it been?
I just joined like at the end of August, and last year, and like a week after I like went through the orientation, I began working at the school.
So it's been almost a full year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to it. Yeah.
So working with other organizations too, including our Agape program and Free Together, what really sticks with you through your time of being a leader specifically in this community, like Allison Hill, Harrisburg community?
Well, something I'm really value and appreciate that I'm been welcomed and a part of is being on Free Together. Been attending a lot of those meetings. I got invited to join the leadership team and be like the communications director liaison. I'm really excited about what we're doing there. Like we're starting to lay the foundation of creating like a mission statements and vision statements and our objectives, and then we're only just starting now to craft workshops with each one of our focus groups to then go out to churches, because we're trying to mobilize churches to do anti-racist work. So that's something that's sticking out to me that was brand new this year. I just heard about a meeting over last summer, joined the call, got hooked, and just very quickly became one of the, the leaders of the group. Still don't really know exactly how or why that happened. But yeah, I mean, that's been a pretty strong reason why I want to stay in the Harrisburg area. So like the service corps that I'm in is the only year-long program. I'm done at the beginning of July. And I'm still trying to, find new prospects of things to do next year. And I don't have anything official. But I feel pretty confident that I want to stay in the Harrisburg area. And one of the big draws of that is Free Together and, Harrisburg First Church of the Brethren. Like, I feel like I found my church. I feel like I found a group that's growing and, going to go somewhere. So that's what's sticking out definitely with this year, to feel a lot more convicted about I want to be in Harrisburg.
Do you want to say something about what Free Together is and what specifically you're doing with Free Together? Because you're in a specific group of Free Together.
Yeah. Free Together overall is this group of people who are committed to doing anti-racist work. Free Together, the whole organization, is focused on reaching out to churches and mobilizing them to get involved. We also have 3 different focus groups at the moment with large topics. We have education, criminal justice, and immigration. I'm in the education focus group. And it's mainly filled with a lot of other educators. I obviously gravitated toward that because I'm working at the school this year. So I'm in that focus group, and then I also do some of the social media stuff that they've passed on to me.
Well, any immediate questions or comments for Chloe? No? Okay. Well, we have BCM helps in sending volunteers to help with community classrooms at the Journey Church. And so kind of understanding a bit of the struggle that especially younger kids are going through with how schools are laid out now. And I know some kids are going back to school, but it's only for 2 hours. And then how are parents going to come back after 2 hours and pick up their kids? And then it's just a whole long situation of how the kids in the community can best be served. And especially when we first started community classrooms, it was supposed to be First Church was going to have the station for community classrooms, and then the one that we're at now is going to be a station. But we realized a need to have a full day rather than only the morning period. So we connected with another church and then offered the whole day. And that has just grown to 12 different students being active in the program, and then food being provided, a number of volunteers, and Halloween parties and Christmas parties and connections outside of the classroom. And it's become this whole big thing. And I think that specifically has really opened my eyes to how the education system is working, and right now specifically not working for the kids. And how have you seen that with your work with both Free Together and being a teacher?
Yeah, at my school, we have kind of a hybrid model going on. Parents are allowed to choose if they want their students to be in person all day, And then we just follow a certain amount of COVID guidelines, like wearing masks, social distancing, sanitizing, all that kind of stuff. And then other students are learning from home entirely. They're all virtual. So I'm teaching to kids in the classroom, and then I'm also teaching to kids online simultaneously, which has been a really difficult thing to juggle. I've noticed it's been particularly difficult to engage those online, just being like really small children and having to, keep their attention over a screen, and, trust that they can take a certain amount of independence to do the work that you assign, that kind of thing. So there have been a lot of challenges with that, and I've had to reach out to a number of my colleagues and say, what am I supposed to do for those online? And I can see that they're struggling. And throughout the year, a lot more of kids have actually transitioned coming back in person. And I notice there's like a drastic change in their performance when they come in person, most of them. Like when they were online, a lot of them were very distant or just distracted. But when they're in person, they've been thriving a lot. So I appreciate that my school is doing all they can to let the kids come in person, because I know that virtual is just hard right now for everyone. The Free Together, we've been talking a little bit more macro in a sense, and our focus group has been talking about like the Fair Funding Act and the disproportionate amount of money being funneled into schools throughout the state, and how to, contact certain representatives or get involved with certain groups that are petitioning for that kind of thing. So we haven't, within Free Together, our education focus group hasn't talked a lot about virtual learning versus in-person learning. But I obviously am just very well acquainted with what that's like, having to work in a school and talking to kids sitting in desks in front of me, and then also to kids on an iPad. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else anybody has to mention?
I'm just curious with the school. What school is it? Like an elementary school or a middle school you're teaching at?
Yeah, it's grade pre-K all the way up through 7th grade. So like primarily elementary, but they have, a little bit of middle school, and they have, early elementary. I mean, yeah, like kindergarten, preschool, and all that kind of stuff.
And that's in Harrisburg, right?
Mm-hmm. It's right on Front Street. Yeah. Just a couple of blocks away from the Capitol.
So I wonder what sort of training or how are your teachers aware of what's going on in the community? Like what your students are dealing with. And I know one thing that our agency is trying to do this year is focus on trauma-informed teacher training. And I just wonder if there's anything down the pipeline, or you guys have kind of been rooted in this, or you always kind of have had that understanding. Could you speak to that a little?
Mm-hmm. We do have a school social worker. She's like a liaison between the school and the families at home. So for some families who are struggling more through the pandemic, she's the one that connects to them. A lot of kids from our school are part of the Joshua group, which I'm not super familiar with what it is, but I know it provides some after school programming, and then scholarships for students who are more socioeconomically disadvantaged to be able to attend. So the school is frequently engaging with Joshua Group and trying to discuss, find out the needs of the students which transportation was a big issue for a while. We don't have like a trauma-informed training, or at least not that I'm aware of. I didn't receive that. That's something that the school could definitely improve on.
I will move on to you, Veronica. So you have recently met our Agape graduates and are aware of the projects we've been doing and planning on doing. And how do you feel as a young leader yourself that also engages and uplifts other young leaders to directly make a difference in Allison Hill?
I think that I'm very strengths focused, so like we work with what's already present in the community, what our youth's already like interested in and good at. It's really encouraging to see how some of your students are interested in pursuing, like for instance, art and social justice, because and food and social justice, and how there's all those little niches with youth work. Kids, I love working with youth in general, just because like it's such a prime time in their development, and so many youth don't get the chance to really explore all these little avenues. So I think letting them be silly and be comfortable and pursue these, I don't know, like music and art and things that really uplift them personally, it's naturally gonna give them a platform to pursue their larger goals. So I don't think that answers your question, but I think that I think it's all about working on what your strengths are and giving yourself opportunities and get creative, stepping out of your comfort zone, like maybe painting a mural. You're passionate about social justice work, and I know some of your students have created some murals in-house, but let's put them on a planter in Allison Hill or on a wall through Sprocket Mural Works and get it out there because you're passionate about it, and we can give you some other mediums to experiment with it and like grow and exercise your talents. It's exciting to see.
One thing I have been like super proud of is our Agape graduates recently. And so Chloe and I actually helped work together to do like the first draft
program, right? Yeah.
Of like what a graduate program would look like. And so this is kind of like a hard left, but still like some of the same things, and it's more of that like strengths focus. So like we know most of the graduates are like super into art, and so like that's what they love, and that's what you can use to get them involved in like being a leader in specific issues that are needed in the community. So we use that, and we're actually granted the opportunities, thank you to like a number of things that were already happening around, and they're able to put like important issues that are important to them into like we did a mural in the church, so it's not like unexpected places, but places like they didn't think they would ever paint a mural in the church around like things that they had studied for like 2 years, and like being able to use their gifts to have something that's gonna like have a lasting impact on the community. So I think having them like really see what they can do and the potential that they have as leaders in the community is gonna be really impactful for them, and I'm really excited for them to go further down the path. So that's been something that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, that's really encouraging, I'm sure too. You guys put a lot of work into that. But I know like your group's going to be working with us on helping us create artwork for one of our recipe books. We have a food justice and food insecurity market in Allison Hill. We accept like SNAP and FMNP vouchers and things like that. So we're bringing fresh local produce to Allison Hill, but also making sure that it's neighborhood centric and the recipes are from residents in the community and the artwork is from our students in the community. So there's so many opportunities, and I think agencies like mine and a lot of others in the neighborhood could do a better job of tapping into our youth and giving them opportunities like this. So lots of room for growth. But I do think that there's so many strengths already here in Allison Hill and in Harrisburg at large. Like, I know we don't have to get Allison Hill specific, but there are so many strengths and so much diversity here that we just have to give it a platform sometimes.
Hey, I have a question. If you can see this, so I was taking a stroll around the neighborhood, and the back of somebody's garage had this mural. Does that look familiar?
Yes, that's Pastor's.
Yeah, that's Pastor.
Not mine.
Wait, so Pastor did this?
Yeah, so
A lot of us contribute, but yeah.
yeah, so his garage was tagged, and he's like, I don't just want to like paint it white. So he's like, let's get artists to come in and do a mural on it, and then have like people in the community come and help. So that's what that is.
Yeah, I see some names up top and stuff, and I think that was dope, and I think it's really cool that it hasn't been tagged again. It seems like it's being respected. So yeah, I just was walking around. I was like, it was a nice snowy day, and all that color when everything else was covered white in snow. It was just really, it was one of those just a cool moment. So much so that I took a few pictures. Like, yeah,
it's powerful, and I think it means so much. Like, just like you're walking through the neighborhood, our youth in the neighborhood and our young leaders, to walk through and see that it's cared for, that spaces are bright and vibrant and reflect the diversity that's here. That's everything. Like, every neighborhood wants that. Everyone wants to live in a community where they're like, oh, did you see that cool thing down there? Like, oh, did you catch that new mural? Or I don't know if I'm geeking out here, but I just think that's the coolest thing. And every neighborhood wants that. Like, why can't Allison Hill have it? I think we're making moves and getting there. We have like some board up projects, so on vacant buildings that are dilapidated or that are just being broken into, putting up boards with murals on them with positive messages, bright colors. I know some little kid did like a little cat sitting in the window, and just like fun things like that. As you're walking to school or walking to hang out with your friends, I think that's the kind of stuff you want to see.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. So a lot of this like piece through art and the mural, that whole idea came from one particular graduate's single project, and that was she wanted to focus on like beautification of the neighborhood and how she saw so many abandoned houses and how that gave like Harrisburg negative connotation, and especially like on the south side, and how it looks and like how it's very gloomy, and how like if there was more art infused, then it would give it a better look, but also like give people hope and encourage people to like take care of our city and stuff. So I thought that was really cool.
I think this is kind of a sidebar, but when we talk about South Allison Hill, a lot of people unfortunately know it for either the crime or like the really good food, I feel like. So I love my tacos and tierra, like that's my place. But I will say our agency tries to do crime prevention through environmental design, which is 100% what we're talking about here. Just showing that the places are tended to and cared for, and giving leaders the platform to do something about the crime that's present in their neighborhood. not just by like surveilling it or by, we can increase police relationships. That's really important. But how can we look at a space and creatively tend to it so that we can address what's happening there and why is it happening there versus there? So things like lighting, things like illegal dumping, overgrown vacant lots and stuff like that. Like that's stuff that we can get our young leaders and our young people involved in. They like that hands-on stuff, I thought. So like, let's get them out there and show that this, like our neighborhood is really, really cared for and we have a lot of strengths, and there's some places that need a little love and we need some hands. We need hands on deck to tend to them, but there's plenty of room for that.
I just want to add on also, like, ever since moving here, like moving that, that the neighborhood, Allison Hill, and just working with the church, I noticed that my Spanish kind of like improved a little bit. I mean, it's a very
it almost has to.
It's in the Latino community. It's just so every time doing a food distribution, like I find myself trying to speak Spanish a little bit, just say the simple words, and and sometimes I remember I just said like de nada. It's very simple. The lady asked me, "You speak Spanish?" And I didn't know what to say afterwards. But then I was like, you know what? I definitely got to improve my Spanish. I definitely got to work on it. And I know there's also a reason for that, me coming here. So I really feel like the diversity and just meeting different people from the community definitely been helpful. And I noticed that I'm growing in that area because people here are, really kind of like compassionate and really willing to go about helping you out.
Mm-hmm. That collectivistic culture thing. We all have something to give and receive from each other.
Yeah, I honestly, like in Philadelphia, it was just totally different. Like, it wasn't that type of diversity where I came from, like Latinos, Hispanics. It wasn't that type of. It was very more predominantly Black neighborhood where I came from. And just coming here, I feel like I can grow more and learn more from different people.
Mm-hmm. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great talk, and I kind of just want to take some time because I know everyone on here, I'll say that, is a young leader who's doing like a lot of really good work wherever they're doing it. And just thinking of ways in which you can be supported, like how you would like to be supported and how others can support you and how you can support other young leaders. So I know for me, especially like the question that I had for Veronica, it's like, as someone who's just stepping into like what it means to be a leader and having to also teach other young people how to be leaders, and like having that whole inner dialogue between, okay, so you don't exactly know where you're at right now, but you also have to like bring these people along with you and just like hope things go well, and just like how to better support other people while also making sure you're supported too.
In a non-COVID year, or at least I went in an ideal situation, I'll say. Essentially, opportunities to connect. I mean, in case you can tell, I'm big on community, I'm big on connecting, I'm big on just relationship building and maintaining just relationship. So I think likewise, having a space for young leaders or people who care about let's say Harrisburg, right? People who are doing different things and care about the well-being of it. Maybe we all come together, and like I wouldn't have known that Veronica is working with murals and promoting prevention of crime through building an environment that kind of helps prevent it. And Chloe, I wouldn't know what you were doing as far as educating and some other things that you were doing as well. Like I think it could be cool to just a bit of a summit. Maybe we all come together and just maybe we share how we care, how we're impacting. That could be cool, because then it just makes us aware of the different resources and the different ways that we're all working to make this place a better place. And then if we know, then maybe we can plug. Like I'm thinking about me and Messiah, I could plug different students in different opportunities, or point them in certain directions, or help them to know what's out there based on their interest. Because I have students that I meet with that say, "Oh man, I love the inner city. I want to help the urban community. I want to move to Harrisburg after this and really help out in Harrisburg in different ways." I'm just like, "Oh, that's great." I mean, I know some other ways as well, but it's the more opportunity, the more we know, just the more we can potentially get help and do better. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I echo that. Being able just to keep connecting with other young leaders would be super helpful. Just so like I'm more aware of what's going on within the community. Like I'm just learning a lot about what the Hill is up to, just hearing from you guys. And also just to like open up opportunities to get involved in other ways too. Like I believe that would be, spreading things through word of mouth is one of the best ways to connect. And then just to have like fellowship and get to know other people with similar values and an interest in, wanting to help out the community.
Yeah, conversations like this are really encouraging. I work with a lot of people who are a lot significantly older than me. So it's encouraging to be with people who are close to my age, who are beginning leaders or just leaders. I don't know, emerging leaders. We're leaders. And I feel like sometimes I have this, if I'm honest, like this imposter sort of like, oh gosh, I'm taking up too much space. I'm too young for this. Or like I hate to say it because I do consider myself a leader, but there's moments where I'm like, oh, like I'm on these calls with city officials and I am a little goofy, and some of that has to show, like I'm still myself and I can still be collected and articulate, but sometimes you get those like that difficult tension between like fully being yourself, being professional, and being a leader, but a young leader, because there's always that like hierarchy if you're working with people who've been doing this for so long. And in community work, there's so many people who've been fighting for this stuff for so long that you bring up an idea and they're like, yeah, we did that 20 years ago and it flopped. Or like there's so much to learn from each other. And yeah, we tried it 10 years ago, but we can try it again. Like I'm young and naive, maybe, I don't know, but you just get some of that sometimes, and it can be discouraging, but it can also be like, hey, I'm learning here and I'll be real with you, teach me something in this moment. So that's something that I know I struggle with as a leader, and I could use some more conversations like this to just be raw about it. It's tough sometimes, but it's really exciting when you put yourself up to something like really big and challenging, and you're like, all right, wasn't a complete weirdo, like it was all right. We got somewhere at the end of that meeting, and we made progress. So those are my 3 cents.
Well, I've been pretty quiet on the call, and for Eric and Daniel and Alyssa, who watch me on our BCMPEACE board meetings, that's not really common for me. In those meetings, it's one of those, I'm serving currently as the vice chair of that, and that's one of several involvements, and so may help to give you a little bit of background. I attend the Mechanicsburg Church of the Brethren, but I'm familiar with Pastor Josiah, former Pastor Belita at the church and things as well. But I also am involved with the Church of the Brethren as far as on the denominational board. July, I'll be the incoming board chair-elect for the denomination. So I'm a few years older, but at the same time, yeah, thank you. That always comes with congratulations and condolences of that type of kind of that kind of thought process. But for those of you, and I don't know most of you, but I'm a few years older than I think most of you. Been an attorney now at the Public Utility Commission for going on 9 years, but was a criminology major in undergrad. So I've really appreciated some of the comments around sort of how we look at the community we're in, and providing that sort of safe space, but also kind of the upkeep and the maintenance to dissuade kind of bad things from happening and sort of violence from happening. But in this conversation, it was one of those, I wanted to kind of sit back and listen first and sort of hear what each of you had to say and sort of provide some insight for me, as far as I think that community involvement looks very different, from being part of the sort of the older part of the millennial generation to even what I would call my sister, who's 6 years younger than me. It's just very different as sort of how we live out those pieces. But I think that listening is one of those pieces of being a leader. Like Orlando, actually, for the PUC, I run our legal internship program. And so it's one of those giving people an opportunity, putting them in a position to succeed. I also, this is ridiculous. I run the youth program at Mechanicsburg Church of the Brethren. And so it's, all right, learning the kids and sort of learning what their strengths are, what their interests are, and then realizing that you have to kind of instill some measure of accountability in them. Some put them in opportunities where they're likely to succeed, but push them outside of where their comfort zones are, because if you're not doing that, you're not encouraging the next set of leaders to come up behind you. So there's that sort of walking alongside them, that listening to them and sort of gauging their interest and sort of what their capabilities are. And then kind of, in my mind, it's pushing a little bit more and saying, yeah, you can take that on. You can do that. You don't have experience in this area. And that's something with the denominational board, right? Pushing young adults into those roles and saying, I know you may, like Veronica kind of said, I know you may not feel equipped right now to do that. You may feel like you're inexperienced. But the only way to gain that experience is to be part of those conversations, to be in the room and to start to learn it. And that way you can then, if it's a strategic plan or something like that, the next time around, you've now participated in that process. Next time around, you can take the more active hand in leading it and sort of understanding what's necessary to happen there. So it's sort of that walking in community with each other, that fellowship, and like we've been doing here, sharing our stories with one another, kind of, in my mind, Rolodexing a little bit of sort of what each of you have said you're involved in, because if an opportunity comes up, I want to be able to kind of check it off and think about one of you and say, hey, is this something that you have a thought on, something you want to be part of? So I think that all those pieces are sort of really part of creating a leadership thread across any areas that we're involved in. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, this past year, I would say, I have met a number of younger leaders in the community who are brand new. So not just young in age, but young in their experience as in relation to what they're doing. And a lot of times, especially in nonprofits in this area, it's young people come in and they just kill it. And it's just they're doing such good work, and it's so cool to see, especially with just the people on this call, just doing so much good work. And I've met young people at Wild Heart that are doing really cool stuff. and like even like the mentors at Joshua Group, and just so many like really cool young people just doing a lot of work. And I didn't think that that was like a thing that happened before I came here. Like I didn't think you could just come and step into a role that in theory is supposed to be for like someone older or with more experience. So it's like when you're in college and you're like looking to find a job and they're like, oh, you need to have at least 5 years experience in this position. But then you come to Harrisburg and it's like, we'll just throw you in like a coordinator position, like fresh out of college, you know. And I just think that's so cool that so many places give young people the opportunity to be in those positions and to succeed. And I think it just says a lot about the trust and the faith we have in our young people. And I think that's really cool.
And Alyssa's too humble to say it, but we got to pat her on the back from the BCMPEACE side as well, because we threw her into the fire right out of the gate, right after that BVS. And when she talks about young people killing it, she's right there with them, killing everything that we kind of throw at her. And it's a learning on the fly, a lot of it, but it's impressive. And so what I hear from each of you is, and what you're all doing is, and what kind of I think we as a group are doing is phenomenal. But I wanted to make sure that I give props to our operations manager and all that she's been doing to keep BCMPEACE moving forward in all the right directions.
Say we give Alyssa a virtual fist bump. Bam.
Everyone gets a virtual fist bump.
I think
We're your biggest fans.
It's interesting how in being young, sometimes like trying to navigate that balance of like still like Veronica was saying, I believe like still like we're young and we want to have fun and we can kind of relax a little bit at the same time wanting to be a professional. But I think being young and having that energy, there's something to that. I think there's a reason why the workforce is the way it is, why it's set up to be. You got some older people, some younger people. I think we have older folks who have wisdom, and they can give us the experience that from things they have tried 20 years ago and they failed. Okay, well let's talk about maybe why they failed, and then how can we adapt it for now? That doesn't mean we don't go do it. I think I try to challenge myself to like still learn from them, but at the same time not let their experience hinder something that I feel like could be a good thing to try. But I guess I'm saying all I have to say is to encourage us all, like, hey, we're young at this time for a reason, and God gave us energy for a reason. Let's use it. If they want to call us young and naive, that's okay. Well, either help us or stand back, and then it's okay. And if we live and we learn. So, anyways, it's okay. Just be young, and I think there's beauty to being naive, because the world hasn't beat us down and showed us what we couldn't do yet. So, we still have hope for the city, and we have hope in areas where other people have lost hope, and that's okay. And maybe we can be the ones who come in and restore some hope for others. So, yeah.
I would say the one thing that I think would really help areas like Allison Hill would be to put the houses back in the hands of owners, not renters. Something like Habitat for Humanity. We've got vacant lots down here and properties that need to be demolished. Single-family homes that are owned by the family that lives there, not rental property owned by someone 3 states away that never sees it. Because one of the things that has hurt, like the Allison Hill area, is some of these buildings are owned by out-of-state developers that bought them and are just letting them rot for a tax break. And that brings the neighborhood down really hard.
And they're not even using them, just let them sit.
Just let them sit vacant, it's a write-off.
I hear you. It's a big frustration of ours.
Wow.
'Cause there was one block here where they tore the houses down and built new single-family homes. You know where that one is, Alyssa?
So,
But
15th and Sotera area.
but I would love to see a couple of blocks done like that in Allison Hill, because they built some beautiful houses there. And
I heard about
some-
that. Is it off of Dairy at all?
Are those the ones on Swatara?
Yeah, they're in Swatara.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are
Yeah,
nice.
that's Tri-County Regional
Yeah.
Development Corporation. They're like our sister agency, something like that.
And
But yeah, they
trash,
do great work.
and trash cleanup. How hard would it be to get a 40-foot trailer and get some young people and just walk around and just clean up some of the mess?
Well, we do have like the Great Harrisburg Litter Cleanup, which can get a good amount of people out. And I know like our youth really like doing it. So.
Mhm. Yeah, we get like 400 volunteers for for that cleanup every year, but it's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, we need little cleanups always, or just people who see something and do something about it right away. That's how we get sustainable neighborhoods that are clean. But I hear you. We like 708 tires last year, 250 volunteers, 11 tons of trash in 3 hours. So it's a lot.
When I
hear ya.
was working in South Texas, I caught a guy dumping a pickup load of construction trash next to our after-school program. And I caught him in the act and told him to stop, and he just threw it out of the truck and drove off. I even had his license number, and we couldn't get anything done.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I took a picture of the guy's plate as he was driving away, and that didn't even stop him.
Yikes.
One of the things is, since I've been here for about 1.5 years, 2 years, that I thought has been really cool is the way that organizations engage and empower like community members and neighbors themselves, and getting them interested in what's happening. So like I've worked a bit with Power to the Hill, and just the way that like canvassing and like talking to them and getting them interested in voting and like what voting can mean, and then being involved with the census kind of, and then just like telling people how important that is, and like what if this many people fill out the census for Allison Hill, like that involves funding. So it's like it's more than just like making sure you're counted. It's like everything like goes together and how this connects to this, and just seeing how it's not like people just don't really care about the community, and a lot of times it's seen as like transient, but there are people who have been here for generations, and I think that's really cool. Like finding those people that are really passionate about the community, that aren't like in the nonprofit sector or don't have like the jobs with titles, but that have actual roots in the neighborhood.
Yeah, to Daniel's point earlier, there's so much history here in architecture, and we've got families who've been in Harrisburg for generations and generations. So we can learn tons from them, and we have. But a lot has changed in the neighborhood too. So.
Allison Hill is supposed to be one of the most depressed but ethnically diverse neighborhoods anywhere on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
In doing our food distribution, I've heard Peruvian Spanish, Dominican Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Arabic, and maybe Congolese all in the space of half an hour.
Wow. It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
I think that's the beauty of it. Like coming here, I just said to myself, I can't undermine the space that I'm in and the people that I'm going to meet. And sure enough, I was able to meet some interesting people. who allowed me to, like, obviously the church allowed me to come in here and just, you know, right away just kind of like threw me in there. And initially it was like it was hard for me to get acclimated, but over time I started to understand my role and start to understand what I'm supposed to do, and I grew more comfortable in it, and I grew to like it. I grew to like more so the people that I met, and it's been a really a good transition over the years, and over the months I should say, and I really love it so far, man. And I'm looking forward to just keep growing. And you know, my mother, when she came to visit, she was very like, she came to visit, I think it was November. She'd never been to Harrisburg. She'd never really been on this side of, like, only once or twice to visit my school. But she never been to Harrisburg, and she was very much impressed. Like, the church was, you know, allowed us to stay in the house, and she loved the house and everything. I never thought it would, like, if you say last year around this time that would be like in this space or be in this, I would be like no, because I didn't really fathom it. I didn't think about it like that. I just thought, okay, I'm about to finish up with Messiah, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. Maybe military but you know, Pastor Josiah really persuaded me to try this opportunity here. And initially I was like, I don't know about BVS, but he was literally like texting me, hey man, this is a good opportunity. And so sure enough, it turned out good.
Does anybody else have anything to say, any closing thoughts or anything else about supporting or being supported? Okay, thank you guys for coming and sharing. It was so good to meet you, Orlando, and see everybody again. Chloe, it's been too long.
It has.
And I'll just say again, this was the second Zoom event in our series. We'll be having one each month, and it is to draw attention to our Highmark Walk for a Healthy Community fundraiser. And if any of you follow us on Facebook, we will have like weekly challenges and weekly prompts for thought, just to keep people engaged with what's happening, and getting people excited to donate. This is one of our major fundraisers, so if you know anybody or are willing to donate, you can do so on our website. And thank you again for coming. And our next event, if any of you got excited about hearing about the beautification and revitalization efforts and our graduate program doing art around the community, our next one will be called Changing the Narrative, and will feature some of our Agape graduates talking about what we are currently working on. So that one will be May 13th. So if you are interested in that, that will be coming around, and you can put that date on your calendar.